Other data types like integers, we have floating and boolean tags and all. Strings, yes, we have to spend some time on strings to understand the behavior, how it internally works, right? What are different operations which we can do on strings? What is the internal pattern? How strings actually are basically used, right, for different type of data, right? So let's start with the internals of string, like how the data is mapped. What is the working model of strings we have internally, right? And then we'll actually start with the operations of string. Fine. Okay. So basically, whenever we define any variable, let's say int something called, let's say x is equal to 10, right? So internally, so integer, we know that it's of 4 bytes. It can save data, right, of 4 bytes, right, and it will actually give us a slot to replace the value in the same slot, right? So which means, let's say this is a memory slot which got created, and this is represented by x and the value is 10. So let's say if I change the value, let's say x is equal to, let's say 25, for example, the value here will be changed to 25 internal. So change any number of times, right? So what will happen? The value, the memory slot will be used, the same memory slot will be used, and the value inside that will be changed. That's how it is. That's how we can actually get the data, right? So here, when you are actually doing this, right, this is the same working model for all the data types you have except strings, right? So when it comes to strings, so how it works is, let's say you define a simple variable called string, some s is equal to, let's say hi, right? Right. So when we actually do this, so which means we are actually defining a simple string, right, with simple string with variable name s, and the value assigned to this string is hi, right? So as soon as you assign any data, right, to this, so strings, normally we know that there is no speculated memory for this, right? So what it will do, so as soon as you assign some data, it will search in the complete heap memory whether there is a memory with this value. Now you can see as of now it's completely blank, for example I'm saying. Now what it will do, now it will create a separate memory slot, it will fill in high. So there will be some address to this, and that address will be pointed to it. Simple. So now let's say if I create one more string in the same scope, for example, right, and let's say the same value high to this is s1 also, right? Then again the same pattern. What it will do, it will try to search the complete memory again, because when as soon as we create any string variable, right, it doesn't create a separate memory slot for us, because there is no speculated memory, because if you have to create a separate slot, you should also have to mention what's the memory you want to give, right? But there is no separate slot, right? So for that reason, so what it will do, it will actually create the slot and fill the value. So when you create different variable the same value, right? So this S1, right? For this S1 to assign a value, it will search again the same memory slot across heap, and if it finds this memory slot, it will be pointed to the same memory slot, kind of. That's how it is. So now let's say if you change the S value, if S is equal to, for example, I'm saying apple, right? So now what will happen? Now this slot is something which is not changeable. It's kind of read only. So as soon as you assign a new value to S, so what it will do, it will create a separate slot again. It will first search, anyways, it will first search. If it doesn't find, it create a separate slot, create a value apple, disconnect this bond with high, connect a new bond with S. That's it. This is how it works. And this value will still be there because one of the string is still pointing to it, which means this memory slot is still actively used. Right? And then, for example, let's say if you change the value of S1 also, S1 to, for example, some ABC, right? So again the same pattern, it will create again search for that value, and if it doesn't find, it will create a new slot. It will say ABC, right? Break the bond with the high, create a new bond with ABC. Right? Now here, as soon as it creates a bond with ABC, you can see that the slot high which it created is of no more use. Right? So now what will happen when garbage collector, now this is the area when our GC comes into picture. So whenever garbage collector is running, it will touch base the heap, and whatever memory slots are orphan slots. See again, orphan slot is nothing but whenever any object is dereferenced, right? So dereference is there is no reference to this object, kind of, right? Then those objects will be disposed by garbage collector, and as soon as those objects are disposed and whatever memory is allocated, right, that memory will be feed up to the heap again. So this is how string works. So that is the reason why strings are called as immutables, right? So immutables in the sense we are not using the same slot, right, for replacing the value. That's important. So for when I say replacing the value, which means you may want to actually replace the value with a different value altogether. That you have one value and you are changing it, right? So this change completely change the address of your variable. That's how it is. So all the variables which we have learned till now are mutables. Mutable in the sense it uses the same memory slot to store the data. That's your mutable and immutable nature of a variable. Right? Now this is the basic working model of a string. Fine. So which means you can see that whenever you are doing using strings, that you got to be careful, because this is going to hit the complete memory of your heap, right? So as much complex operations or heavy data you use for strings, right? It's going to choke the memory of your machine. So while doing it, we have to be careful here. Fine. So now let's go ahead and see few operations which you can perform in strings here. So let me close this. Let me create a new project altogether. Let's say add a new project. So let me call it as strings sample. And let me make it as a startup project. Perfect. So now when we have this, now let us see how to get it. Now simple string. So let me just say this as console dot read line. Now here I'm going to take, let's say, simple string. We have string, let's say s1 is equal to, for example, hello, right? And let's say string I have s2. Sorry. Let's say fine. So let's see how to define few of the concepts here. So first concept is your concatenation, right? We can concatenate two strings. Concatenation is nothing but your merging one string with other string, right? So here when I use concatenation, so I can use concatenation this way. So let's say I'm gonna print everything, right? Line of, I can use something called s1 plus s2, right? It will do the two concatenation without any. So it will take hello, it will take hi, it will create one string, and that string will be returned, which means this will create altogether new memory slot, yeah, because we are not changing s1 or we are not changing s2. We are just merging or concatenating these two to create a new string, and that new string will be created, and the new string will be printed altogether on a console window. Simple as that. So here, if you see this, let me run it, and yeah, you can see hello hi. Let me just change the size of this so that you can be able to see hello hi. You can see there are no spaces, nothing, because we haven't mentioned. This is how you concatenate your strings. Now let's say here in strings, let's say you can concatenate multiple strings in one shot. Let's say s1 plus s2. So in between, I'm going to say s1 plus some space here and s2, for example, right? So now this will give you s1 plus space s2, which means now here if you can see, I'm actually concatenating three different strings here. S1 is one string, S2 is a string, and even space is something which is a kind of string, right? So now when you run this program, you will see S1, which is hello, the second string space, you can see the space and the hi. Now this makes some sense, right? Now this is how we normally define our S1 concatenation. So now in concatenation we have one more very important concept to understand. Let's say, see, I'm using plus, right? I'm using plus. So instead of that, I can also use a feature. When you use string, there are multiple internal methods you have, like compare, and you can see you have concat here. When you have a concat, you can see you can either give multiple strings, object 1 and object 2, let's say s1 comma s2, right? Now this is the internal method you have, which you can give any number of stuffs you want, right? So this will again give you a concat. Again, this is something which will follow a sequence of, you can see, as we gave s1 and s1, it will concat, right? Internal method here. Now if you are using plus symbol, now let me show you one more very important example. Let's say I'm going to say 2 plus 3 plus 5 plus, for example, let's say I have a string now which is, for example, Apple plus something called 88 plus something called 79, for example. Right? Now there can be situations that you are actually encountering this type of data for sure. Now, so here there is one thing which we have to keep it in mind. When you are doing a plus operation between numbers, right, it is always indicates to sum the number. If there is no string appearing here, now you can see 2 plus 3 plus 5. You can see, if you can see the first, right, there is no string at all. So till there, yes, everything will be summed up. Now from the point it encounters string, right, and after that, if there are any sum operations between any numbers, right, let's say I'm going to say 1001 and all. Now everything will be considered as string, as a normal thing. Kind of 88, 79, everything will be concatenated as a face value itself. So let me run and show you. So you can see here, it says 10. 10 is 2 plus 3 plus 5 is 10, Apple, and after Apple you can see 88, 79, 1001. Now these are after the string. Everything else is considered as normal string. Very important. This is a concatenation of a string. Fine. So similarly, you have comparison. Right, so let's say console.writeLine of, let's say I'm going to say S1 is equal to S2. I can use double equal to, right? Double equal to is nothing but check the values of both the strings. So anyways, we know that your S1 and S2 are not the same, so it will give you false. Similarly, let's say for example I'm going to make this as hello, same. So when I run it, you'll get the true. Similarly, let's say if I make it small h and do F5, now you can see it's false because it is going to check the true face value, right? Because there is difference between capital H hello and small h hello, right? They are not same, right? This is your comparison you have, right? So now here, so let's say if I want to change the casing of some string, let's say S1, let's say I want it to be in uppercase, so you have something called to upper. So when you say S1 dot to upper, which means it is going to convert the string S1 each and every character into uppercase. But there is a situation here. See, when I said S1 dot to upper, which means it will convert all the characters of S1 into upper and return it. It will not change S1 here. See, I'm going to print S1 dot to upper and immediately let me print console dot writeLine of S1. When I run it, that's a feature of your string. You can see S1 dot to upper will change the value, and this value will be saved in a new memory, and that new memory will be returned to print. But the actual face value of S1 is still the same, right? So if you are looking to change the complete S1 to upper, then you have to make sure that you are assigning back to S1 again. Let's say if I save this part, right, and if you want to remove it. Now, yes, this is something where we are going to change S1 permanently to uppercase. You can see S1, when I am printing S1, this itself becomes hello. Right? This is how we normally do. Similarly, you can always do to lower. So let's say I'm going to say S1 dot to lower, right? To lower is to, right, make all the characters lower, So here let's say I'm going to take a simple string as this is sample, let's say, for example, right? So here we have something called replace. You can replace either characters or strings if you want. So here I'm going to say, let's say, for example, I want to replace old character S with new character, for example, T. Again, when you replace, it is not going to directly replace this. It will replace and create a new string which you have to connect back. When you say S1 is equal to, which means, okay, I'm doing a replace of this and then saving it back to S1. This is how we normally take console.writeLine of S1. So when you run it, you will see everything as wherever there is S, it will be converted to T. Fine. This is a replace you have. Now similarly, for example, you can just comment this replace. I want this as this is sample. So let's say there are some spaces here, and if you are printing S1 here, so when you run it, you will see the leading and trailing spaces here, right? And these spaces, right? See, if there is a space between words, right, it does make sense and it does make significance of that space, right? But if there is a space, right, prior to a string or a word or related to a string or a word, then it may not give any meaning altogether, right? So in that situation, whenever you are printing, right, you can always do something called trimming of a string, right? So either you can trim the start spaces or end spaces, or I can say trim both. Simple. So what will happen when I run my program? You can see this will trim the trailing and leading spaces of my string. That's your trim, right? So similarly, you have something called index, which means, so for example, see, each and every character again in S1, right, will be saved. Let me just remove these spaces, right? Each and every word, see, there is a different pattern how the string is saved. Each and every character is saved in an array. First thing. Second, each and every word is also saved in subpattern, like it's a 0th index word, first index word, second index word, and so on. Similarly, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Right? So during this situation, you may want to get the index of some character, for example. So let's see that. Let's say int I index is equal to, so S1 dot, you have internal method called index of. So here you can see either you can give a string or a character word. Let's say I'm going to give S, which is a character word. And let's say I'm going to print console.writeLine of I. So when I run my program, so you can see it will give 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. The first possible S will be retrieved here, right? That's what it is. So let's say if you know that, okay, I don't want the index appearing at third position, I want the next one. So you can always have an overload method called start index, from where you want to start the search. Let's say I'm going to give the fourth as start, which means it will start from here and it will try to get the index of the next possible S, right? So when you run this program, you can see you're getting 6. You have first till 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is your index of, right? Similarly, we have one thing which is very important. Sometimes you will need the part of the string, right? Part of a string. Let's say I'm going to say string S2 is equal to S1 dot, you have something called substring. So from where you want, let's say in this I want substring, some substring from this actually. So let's say you have to provide a start index. Let's say I'm gonna give start index as 8, like which comes to maybe S here, and I can give length. Okay, let's say I want to give length from here. How many characters you want, kind of. So let's say from here, let's say I want some 4 characters, for example. This will give me a substring of this. So S2 is already defined. Fine. Okay. Take this S2, and then let me print it like console.writeLine of S2. When I run this program, you can see SAMP. So S is like 8 index character, and from there 1, 2, 3, 4. From there you have 4 different characters being plotted. Right, that's a summary. Fine. So here, this is your substring option, right? To get a substring of any sort, and then you have something called nullcheck. Nullcheck is something which we will be using most of the times. Let's say, for example, we normally say if, let's say S1, right? I want to check whether it is a empty or null sometimes, right? So what I can do, let's say I have an internal method called string dot is null or empty, and you can provide S1, right? And here I can say console.writeLine of true as console. Fine. So S1 here you can see. Let me just take this, take it out, because we know that we are going to have only one statement, right? So if only one statement fails, you don't have basis, right? So here let's say my S1, right, is something, some ABC. When I run it, is null or empty will give you false. Right? So this is your false kind of. Why? Because it's not empty. So for example, let's say I'm gonna make it null. So null is nothing but there is no, I know, space or there is space that defined, because it's just S1 is just a variable of string where we haven't defined anything. Let's leave it true, right? So this is your null or empty kind, which we normally do the check, right? Yeah, sometimes we also do something called if kind of, let's say console.writeLine of S1 is equal to null. This can be done. That's not a problem. But this may check only your null. It may not check the empty, right? For empty, again you have to write whether it is the empty string altogether and how it is working. So that may not be checked. So that part is something which may give you empty part. Again you have to define. So instead of actually defining these many times, you can just say it's always better to use the internal methods provided within a string, which comes to your is null or empty. Fine. So that's your is. Okay. Right. That's your is null or empty here. Right. Now then we have two very important concepts of splitting a string and joining strings. Let us see that part. Last two sense of string. And as you can see, two. That's fine. Now splitting a string. For example, let's say I'm going to take one string. Right. Let's say this is let's say let's say holiday season. Space. Right? So here, what I can do, I can actually split each word, right, with some delimiter, because see, you can see here, I mean, I can take any character as such, but what I want to do here is I want to know how many words, right, are there in the string. In this situation, what I can do, I can split the string into multiple words. Let's see how. So always see, when I'm saying splitting, which means I am doing, or I want an array of words in this, which means I'm looking for a string array. String array. Let's say string array, let's say data is equal to, you can say s1 dot, we have a internal method called split, right, where you have to mention your separator. Okay, based on which character you want to separate each word. Let's say I want to separate it with space, and this will take with 2 character array. Now what it will do, it will take the string, take the space, right, break it up, and each and every word will be filled to the string. So that's why if you print this data, right, data is nothing but your string array, right? So if you print it, then you will see each and every word being printed. So when I run a program, let me run, you can see this is holiday season and exclamatory mark. Right? Now this is my split here. Now similarly, for example, you may have to do the reverse of this, which means you have a string array. For example, I'm gonna say console, one second, console dot read line, sorry, write line of, let's say I'm gonna take some space here, and here let's say I have a simple string, let's say some data, there's some data, and I'm gonna give some words here. So let's say apple, orange, right, something like, you know, .NET, right, for example, cloud. Right. So these are different words I have, and what I want to do, I want to join these things and make a sentence, make into one statement, for example. Right? So definitely when you make one statement, what will be there? It will definitely give it to some string, right? So maybe I'll take it into s1 again, is equal to, we have something called string dot join, a very useful function where you have to mention separator. Let's say I want to give separator called space and then a collection. Collection is nothing but your collection of values. So now when I print my data called s1, we can see this s1 will give me connected string, you can see, with these words and space as a delimiter. It's not just space, you can take anything. Let's say I'm gonna give some characters. This is a delimiter I want. Yep, you can take it, that's not a problem at all. You can see apple, so also delimiter, orange, so also delimiter, .NET, so also delimiter, cloud. Right. So these are the ones, right, which you can actually do in a string operations, which is a complete immutable in nature. So while doing a heavy string operations, always do remember, every time you're doing any operation, it is doing on a value of that, but it is not storing. Every time if you want to change something, you have to assign it back to that string. So these are the operations which you can actually perform on strings. So that's about strings we have. So before we actually move on, right, I wanted to actually, this is the right time that we introduce all the assignments to you guys. I am just, giving it to you guys here. You can see. So here in the same folder, right, I have created a separate folder called assignments. I'll sync it. It is a Dropbox folder, Dropbox itself. Inside these assignments, you can see there are many assignment folders. They are related to altogether different, like C Sharp, ASP.NET, MVC, or SQL Server, right? All the topics which we are going to cover, every assignment is here. Now, don't worry about all other. First one we are going to start with is C Sharp tasks. Okay, so I want you guys to go through this. So there are till date, right? Whatever topics we have covered, right? So you will be able to do some of the tasks. So I'm just recording this actually. So you can go to assignments. You have C Sharp tasks, right? So this will give you a good insight if you can start off with C Sharp task here. So it is going to take. So let me open up this. So the first task, which is C Sharp tasks, right, will have around 8 to 9 tasks, right, which you can actually take up. Yeah, you have 9 tasks altogether, right? So first few tasks, like up to 5 or 6 or 7, it will be straightforward task you have, right, for a simple array, for a simple loop, for a simple string operations and all. Right, and 8 and 9 will be kind of dependent on completely your OOPS and other stuffs, right? So till 7th task, yes, you can actually start kick off and start doing. So while you are doing, maybe we can actually go ahead with other stuff. Fine. Now what to do with assignments? So every time you are actually doing the assignments, right, we are going to check assignments for each and every. I'm going to check each and every assignment, guys. That is mandatory, because assignment is a criteria, basic criteria of exit of each module, for sure. So as we discussed in our initial class side, we'll be checking the assignment, and as soon as and through assignment itself, you will get so many questions, so many doubts. So I'm here to help you out with that assignments, guys. So don't have to worry. So with that assignments, you'll have to execute them, and as soon as you're done with assignments, here I have created a separate folder called student assignments. So inside you can create your folder. So let's say I'm going to create, let's say, a folder called Gopi, right? So what Gopichan will have to copy all these assignments, all the projects, all the solutions here. So this is his own folder where he can actually sync up. Now these files or these binaries or these projects which you are going to share, right, I'll be sharing this with the consultancy, and they may give these solutions to the interview parties also. So these assignments may go anywhere to build up the confidence on you. So you can actually take care of assignments in a great way. Fine. So please start up with C Sharp tasks, guys, ASAP, right? And once you start off, you'll get some questions and all. Please don't hesitate to stop me at any point, right? So what we're gonna do, we'll have a first check of assignments on your Monday, right, which is coming Monday CST, right? So you have almost 3 to 4 days to go. Right, just open up and take off this one, C Sharp task, and any questions you can ask me. And one simple ask is, before we conclude C Sharp, right, you will be able to complete this assignment actually, so that once you go to ADO.NET SQL Server, you can actually start off other stuffs. Fine. Any questions in this, guys? Any questions on pattern of assignment or anything you have? Fine, good then. So if you don't have any questions, that's good. So you can go through this assignments, guys. So please start off. Let's see. I mean, who will be able to actually accelerate the assignment and the understanding, right? So definitely the evaluation will be great, and this will definitely help you guys in if these assessments are shared with interviews and all, right, it will definitely help you out. It will create a good impression for sure, right? So please take it up, guys. And if you need any help, please don't hesitate to stop by.